Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to Council of Future Conflict, episode 528. We're talking the war around the corner and the No King protests from this weekend. I think the judgment of all of us is that the No Kings was no no action essentially, but essentially it was a 5 million people, at 2,000 events across the country. I think, Watchy, you said your generous estimate was probably something closer to 500,000, and that's including counter protesters.
Correct. That's including gawkers, counter protest. That is just raw bodies. That includes police. In some shots. Like,
yeah, it's I mean, I'll be honest with you. And everything that I did see from the weekend looked essentially like just carrying over from the previous week. The anti-ICE stuff. I guess there was no King's branding at a lot of these places, but ultimately, like, everything I saw was no ICE, essentially. Two things that we don't have at this time of year. We have neither Kings nor ICE. It's middle of the summer.
That was good. That was good. Thank you. I will say, if you want an indication, I think that Sunday is a perfect indication, because they had these unplanned but still showed up to events all week. They rioted for an entire week leading up to the No Kings protest, which was an event to get it in the news and get it pushed and get it forward and get as many gawkers out as possible. They held the big one on Saturday, quote unquote big one, and then Sunday, literally nobody came back out except for the shut-ins, who Saturday was the first time they'd interacted with people since 2020.
Yeah. Joe, how you doing today, brother? Back home, I see.
Yeah, I got home last night around 9 o'clock ish. So, I'm doing good. We've got a whole lot of video we did not share from the weekend in Denver.
Yeah.
We may actually get to some of that today. It's been a busy few days. A lot of fun was had. A lot of good folks met and talked to and chatted with, and a lot of not so good ones met and chatted with. It's been an interesting weekend. For those who don't know, I got interviewed by interviewed in air quotes by Antifa's counterintelligence people, and it was going well for a while until it wasn't. But I had them fooled, and I was actually doing a little elicitation. And
I'm sorry. They have a CI element now. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, they have CI all over. On the outer fringes, they run around and they try to chat with people and find out why you're here and all that. But what the conversation convinced me of is that they don't hold these protests to change anyone's minds. They hold them to whip up people who already agree with them.
Yeah,
they don't want you even there if you don't agree with them 100% already.
Yeah, my wife and I were having that discussion the other day. Sorry.
Yeah, they definitely don't want any interaction. Oh, we don't know who he is, so don't talk to him or whatever.
It was my fault. I didn't dress appropriately for the occasion.
I guess both. Not only does Antifa not want interaction, but neither does the council, because nobody shared the link out on X yet. So I'm just saying.
I was gonna tell Chad, be prepared for me to roll my eyes a lot today. Here's the first one.
That's not just for you now, Joe. And Pete's got more followers than me too. So I mean,
I'm sorry. I can do that.
If that's the least you can do, Pete. Come on,
I will.
Help me out here, brother.
I got you.
Help me, help you. Okay,
exactly.
Well, and if you're out there in the audience, help us by giving this video a like. That really does.
Yeah. That is very
rhyme.
That is very helpful. If you just just share the link out there with folks, let them know, hey, this is it's good stuff. We're live right now, so that you can tell people, hey, our good friends at the Council on Future Conflict are live now. Check them out. All right, before we get too far into this, Lance Corporal veteran for 20 bones off the top rope. Before the show even begins. Actually, I think it was during the song in the beginning, the intro. He says, my immigrant family members can't help defaulting before agreeing with me. It's only criminal gangs, while comparing their life story, saying talking points trumps too hard and separating families, arresting honest workers. I'm going to hire you an editor someday, Lance Corporal Veteran. That was a very generous. Yeah, I mean,
the plot twist is that it will be anti-common.
That's right. Anti-common, I know, right? That's two. Those are people who who parenthood have absolutely just taken over their lives, because you never see them in the chat anymore. Like I chat with them from time to time on X, and they're doing well. But it's they don't have time for videos and things like to be in the chat anymore. That's what happens when you have two little babies at home. All right. Now, and then also over on Rumble, Low-Key LARP gifted 5 future conflict subscriptions. So thank you very much. Basically the 3 good ways to support the channel financially is super chats. Do that on both. Memberships also on both. And if you really want, you can give other people memberships. And that lets lets people show
blend in
below.
How do you blend in at a protest? Well, step 1, spend several days not showering. I'm not kidding.
I know.
Step 2, wear your grungiest pair of shitty clothes. Bad leftist bands are most highly encouraged. Also, if you get a free political t-shirt from any old leftist political campaign, you can find them at the Goodwill for under $1. Also a good choice.
Let's see.
First of all, you need to stop right now and go look at the tweet I sent and marvel.
Marvel. Well, I just like to say that when I said that, we had 90 eyeballs on X, and now we're just hitting now 200. So Joe, you are a change maker whenever you when you show up like that. I'm just saying. Yeah. Let's see. Pete, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. I was just working on a little tweet and just sending it out.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. How's the family doing?
Doing pretty good. Hold on. Actually, you know what? I messed it up. They're good. So my little girl was feeling better enough to go to swim classes this morning. So, and I think my father-in-law's coming over so we can actually open the pool. That is what I'm looking for.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. Yeah, it takes more than one person. We can't do it necessarily because someone has to watch the kids when it happens.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know how that is. The good news is like once your kids get to college and things like that, you don't have to worry, at that level. But still, I know the feeling.
Hold on. I took the effort to write that, and you pulled it up, and you're not going to read it out loud.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me.
I mean, you'll mispronounce Ukrainian place name all week long, but you won't read a short little poem by you.
But it's funny after I did it a couple times. It's like learning the names would actually be counterproductive at that point, because I feel like it wouldn't be. All right, here we go, Mr. Joseph Dolio's latest tactical wisdom here. We are here to attest. We're talking about the protests. You think that's a bore? Well, we'll also talk about the war. If you want to stop the rhyme, get in here on time. Look at you, Joe.
Come on.
You're a poet. I don't know why you don't do it. Stop with the terrible sketches that you're doing. I mean, the beautiful art that you're doing inside your signed copies.
Poems.
You should do custom poems. I mean, it's like
limericks. I like
the poetry of tactical wisdom. Volume 7.
Yeah.
All right. You're like, all right. You're laying it on thick. Uh-oh. I'm Sibley. I'm just looking at my responses. There's some really funny stuff.
No. We've
because of
Sibley's
we'll
had a busy day.
Yeah, we'll be talking about my favorite tweet that I released was all these people. So Sputnik News basically said 9 countries whose military parades put the U.S. to shame. Basically, people put it, making fun of the. Let's see, I'll share it. I'll put it here in the private link. Watcher, like as you guys know, we're not. This is not an odds and end, but we had the Army 250th birthday, and I almost think that the soldiers did this on purpose. It was so uniformly bad. You could tell the one thing that our warfighters don't do is concentrate on like marching in time, because damn, it was not, it's crazy is who was
there were not U.S. Marines marching here, because you would not have seen this nonsense.
That's right, because Marines have so little money for training, they have nothing better to do than to walk around back and forth up and down the square, whereas we have tons of money for training, so we're always in the field. But anyway, you walk right into that one, Joe.
And it's a Marine thing that they take pride in.
So basically, Sputnik here says, no offense, but your big military parade kind of low energy. Here's what a proper parade looks like, and of course, they've got the Russian parade underneath, right? And then,
because you need audio to truly appreciate what they did, because it is. Look, I do love a good troll. Yes.
I mean, the irony of them showing the Ranger Regiment when they were doing that. I mean, come on, Ranger Regiment's been stacking bodies for years. Marching is not high on their list. So yeah, they give all these kind of like, here are seven nations, right? So I did my own little tweet here. And I basically said 9 countries whose militaries have been put to shame in the field of battle, and then of course Mexico, Spain, Germany, and I said the best marching army of all time, leading to their unconditional surrender. Of course, I'm showing all pictures of armies marching, to include Japan and North Korea, and then finally, I get to Iraq, and I just show a picture of the highway of death. I felt that was a pretty good troll. Not quite the parade that they thought it was going to be.
Well, it wasn't. And then just didn't go well.
I Panama. We were stacking bodies in Panama too. Joe was there to attest to that. Grenada, this picture alone. I mean, who cares if these guys can march? Look at that picture. I actually thought about using a picture from Highway. Oh fuck! I can't. Heartbreak Ridge. I thought about using a picture from that instead of this one, but and then of course the last one is Afghanistan. We killed a lot of people in Afghanistan too. And look at that beard. You think that guy can march? Fuck no, he can't march. But guess what? He can operate, evidently, because that's what they do when they have beards like that.
Well,
holy cannoli!
Certainly successfully apply for a no shave jet.
Permaseal finishing for $49.99. Listening for years, figured I owe y'all. Man, that's
he said use, so I'm gonna assume he's from
use all. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Very. Oh man, that's that puts a smile on my face. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. I know there are a lot of you guys out there that just don't jump in the chat that much. Feel free to jump in. The water's nice.
Permaseal finishing.
And so going back to them not marching in time, that actually kind of undermines the whole argument that it was a fascist authoritative dictator who ordered this parade. Because
exactly
all the other ones, they're marching with. I mean, they're all essentially goose stepping in time, and so the fact that they weren't, again, undermines their argument.
You know what's my favorite thing though? We haven't used the ultimate. There is a nuke on this, gents, that hasn't been dropped.
What's that?
Do you know what they have failed to mention in all of their bitching and whining and complaining?
What's that?
Do you know who authorized and organized the actual parade? Joe Biden, before he left. This was authorized last year. He planned it all. Trump literally just went. That's it.
The Army birthday. So what if Army birthday happens to be on the same day as Trump's birthday?
Coincidence? So he's predestined.
Right. Yes, I mean, it's predestined. Yeah, predestination is definitely. Google that one. Anyway, so I'll be honest with you. I'm not really interested in whether or not our soldiers can, march really well. The thing that I want to know is that are they able to do the job that we pay them to do on a daily basis? And I think, I did another tweet where I basically said, with a few exceptions, there are duds at all levels within the formation, but most soldiers work hard to do the job that they're told to do, and so it's
true. And look, I do this in defense of the Army. It's the other thing that absolutely is the reason why. Like, I'm not kidding you. The majority reason why, regardless of like how much attention they put into drilling and all this other stuff, when you are playing ridiculous music that is not in time with the marching beat on loud hailers to the parade grounds, it's very hard to keep beat when no one is calling cadence.
Yep.
Yeah, I that's one thing that I didn't know. Like, I couldn't tell if they were playing music at the location where the review stand was. The other thing that was weird to me is the review stand, I feel like, was on the wrong side of the road. Like, they did it where they did it because it was like backed into the White House, right? But like, so they had to do eyes left. I've never heard that before. I mean, I assume it's a thing, but
that's what we did. We did all the time.
See, that's just it. We never went past things. It was, the reviewing stand was always to the right, always. I mean, that's just the way it was. Parades are done.
And I've done more military parades in time while I was at the Citadel than any time in my 22 for 4 years. Right, I did way more every Friday, just about than my entire 22-year career in the Army or the National Guard.
And if you look, so
National Guard, Army,
National
Guard.
But
Army National Guard. So I want to
the irony is there were some soldiers that actually could march, and almost all of them were either. So they had soldiers from basic training. They actually brought them up, and then they swore them in. The president swore them in, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And then those guys look good because guess what? They've been marching a lot.
Training.
And then the other thing is all of the senior service academies, Army service academies, to include West Point, the Citadel, VMI.
We're not a military academy.
I know, but it's, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's
Annapolis, West Point, and so forth. Well, not Annapolis because it wasn't Navy, but
It was West Point, VMI, the Citadel, Texas A&M, I think.
All the major corps cadets.
Yeah, and they all look great. They could clearly march because you guys literally do like weekly parades.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We get the city of Charleston actually pays the Citadel for the for the parades, in order to draw more people down there for tourist dollars. And every company got graded at multiple points throughout the entire parade, and whoever won got got an extra night off or some crap like that. My company never won.
My buddy in when I came back in the military to go to OCS, my buddy from both, he was in basic training with me, and then at OCS. He actually graduated from VMI, but didn't take the commission.
Yeah,
and
like me.
so like that guy, like every time I walked behind him, I felt really subconscious because he was very like did the the whole Corps cadet style
like
marching.
almost like bracing. You put your chin down.
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, so he said he had to work hard not to do that, like to kind of relax a little bit. All right, gentlemen, let's enough wool gazing on the parade. Let's talk about for me, the entire No Kings thing was completely overshadowed by this Minnesota lawmaker assassin apprehended after multi-day manhunt. So basically, you had what was it? It was two. Was it? Who were the victims again?
There were two state representatives.
State representatives, right?
Yeah,
state senator and the
state senator, state representative. That's right. Vance Boelter, a 57-year-old former appointee of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, operator of multiple mysterious NGOs, and a suspected political assassin, was captured Sunday night after a massive multi-day manhunt. He's accused of murdering a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband and wounding two others. Let's see. So he's being. So this is a Mauro Naval tweet where he basically kind of gives the rundown. So we'll just kind of cover that, and then we'll go into him getting captured. He's a Democratic activist and 2019 appointee of Governor Tim Walz. He's a suspect of the targeted shooting of the Minnesota lawmakers, Melissa Hortman and John Hoffman. Both are moderate Dems. This isn't random violence. It's the second time a radical leftist has allegedly turned on moderate Democrats. Remember the PA governor attempt? So clearly this is, Joe, it's almost like there's like a theme here. And it's almost like weekly, whether it's target assassination or terror.
Two important notes here. Number one, if you followed my locals page, you knew about this for about 2 hours before it broke in the media. Ask yourself why, because the media probably got it from the same source I did, and they wanted it desperately to not be true before it came out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they had to prepare the story. And then number two is they're going to do everything they can to make this dude look like something he isn't, and it's absolutely crazy. There is something really, really big up there.
Now, he did
alive though. I think there was. I'm sorry. Let me one more thing. This question got asked by Mrs. Tactical Wisdom over the weekend, and I see that several others did too. Why did the police just magically decide to go check on this other person and encounter the shooter in the act? It was a stretch. It was a different jurisdiction. The whole thing was a little bit weird. Hey, good on them for doing so, but you have to ask yourself, why did they send a car to this other house? And was the intent for the attacker to have been killed in the process, and it didn't go that way? You really have to ask the question.
Yeah. Let's see. So here's go down a little further, and we get a picture of the guy. The face of evil. After relentless and determined police work, the killer is now in custody. That's the Ramsey County Sheriff wrote on Facebook. Thanks to dedication of multiple agencies working together to support the community, justice is one step closer. Now, Joe, what do you think they're going to get out of this guy? Is he gonna? Is his delayed suicide attempt going to catch up with him?
He's good. Yeah, it is. He's going to stay alive long enough to say, "I love Donald Trump," and this is MAGA country, and then he's going to commit suicide.
Yeah, with two guys holding him down as they pull him against the rope.
All these bruises on his face and rib cage, but he committed suicide.
That's right. Let's see.
He's going to die too. The dude's roommate's going to have a heart attack. And die. So,
I mean, he's clearly in on it because he is absolutely like, oh, this guy absolutely listened to InfoWars all the time. Ramsey County Sheriff's Office apprehended Boelter in Sibley County.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's a hint in there.
Fuck, Mark, come on, man. Earlier on Sunday morning, Boelter fatally shot former Minnesota Speaker House Morton and her husband, Mark, in a separate incident. He wounded State Senator John Hoffman, also a Democrat, and his wife. I guess the State Senator Hoffman was the Speaker of that. Who was it? Let's see. He's the Speaker of the House, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Epoch Times provided additional details about the suspect. A LinkedIn profile appears to be associated with Boelter, showed that his most recent role held was CEO of the Red Lion Group hotel, which he was said was based in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He and his wife Jennifer also apparently run a security service called Praetorian Guard Security Services, LLC, according to their website. His wife is listed as the chief executive of the firm. The company's website says it offers armed security services. Boelter wrote that he has been involved in security situations in East Europe, Africa, North America, and in the Middle East, including West Bank, Southern Lebanon, and Gaza Strip. It also said that he was ground experience combined with training by both private security firms and by people in the military, U.S. military. Not military training, but by people that were in the military. And also worked for the largest U.S. oil refining company, the world's largest food company based in Switzerland, and the world's largest convenient retailer based in Japan. Those claims could not be immediately verified. Shocking. Joe, I mean, I thought of you when I heard this. Like, if this guy's lying, I mean, this is going to come out pretty easily.
There is literally no way on God's green earth that this guy is not a Democratic operative. There's no way that this slovenly dude is telling the truth. I want to point out something about Praetorian Guard Security, though. It was a little known but incredibly prescient movie called The Net in the 80s with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
And somebody just went by on a bicycle. I need to find out who that is. And the bad guys in it were a security company called the Praetorians. So draw your own conclusions.
I mean, the Praetorians were not good guys, in Roman history. Let's see. A lot of tweets here with information about this guy. Data Republican down there at the bottom. Let me see what she's got to say here. Vance Boelter, was CEO of an international NGO called Red Lion Group. I couldn't find any photographs or digital records of its work, or only a generic website. Appears to have run out of funding a month or two ago, as that's when he started looking for executive level roles.
Well, gee, what happened in the NGO world a couple months ago?
The best thing ever.
And then a bunch of USAID awards in Congo got canceled about around the time he was job seeking. So this is another tweet from Data Republican. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow one of the he was on the tit, for all this free money that USAID was giving out. The New York Post noted that Boelter left behind a manifesto listing the names of 70 politicians, including Waltz and his lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, and his stack of paper stating "No Kings" in reference to nationwide anti-Trump protests. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I assume Patsy or some sort of like.
Well, they didn't mention, in my opinion, the most important connections that tie him to them, which is that his wife was hired as Waltz's.
What? Just
and then Waltz appointed him to the same government employment for those with disability board twice for 2 separate terms. Democrats, Tim Walz particularly, very famous there in Minnesota for handing out jobs to Republicans that hate them.
Here's my question. Here's my question, right? How is he not charged with first-degree murder? Because evidently the charging document came out. It's count 1, murder in the second degree with intent not premeditated. And then count 2.
Second degree is easier to prove. They always go with the lower charge on the initial.
Yeah, as the investigation goes on, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So I'm actually working on a thread between about the No Kings movement right now. So that should be pretty interesting. About
first degree premeditated charges require a grand jury indictment in Minnesota. It's a Minnesota law mandates that a grand jury must indict individuals for offensive punishable by life imprisonment, which includes first degree murder. The county attorney presents evidence to the grand jury and will find the probable cause, and they issue an indictment. So that may happen later this week.
Yeah.
All right, guys. What else on this guy do we need to talk about? Because it seems to be like a lot missing.
Well, they claim he's a white supremacist, yet he spent his entire adult life working in Africa to help folks who live in Africa. And I mean, the entire story they're trying to push is contradicted by facts. And not even opinion, like straight facts. So ask yourself why, and understand that there's something bigger at play.
Watcher, I just shared a link in the private chat. So this is interesting. This is, I don't know who this guy is, but this is based on this is true based on a couple other things that I saw. The plot thickens. The Democratic shills are insisting that Vance Boelter lived in a small house with a Papa John delivery guy who swears he's a Trump supporter. The reality is he is married with a family and owns a sprawling property in a very large home. So, I mean, just weeks after Tim Walz called his minions.
Deaths of state lawmaker Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark.
So here's another one. I don't know if maybe he's. Oh my God, Joe.
Right?
I think what also might be instructive would be to pull up a pattern of how many times the Democrats have done this in the past when one of their own gets caught, and they like it. The pattern is they very clearly know that he's not a Republican, and they are very clearly trying to frame it that way in whatever desperate way they can. And it's getting increasingly desperate to the point where it's kind of obvious that the only people they're trying to convince are the people that already believe them.
This I just sent you another link.
I'm disappointed we're not showing the link I just shared you guys, because I'm buying that.
I'm trying to wait till
I sent the bow tie version. They got like
I want to finish the thread and then we can move on. We're definitely sharing that, Joe. Don't let me forget. So this is a tweet from Data Republican again, and this is one of the things I really like about her analysis is that she follows the information where it takes her, and she's not driven by an agenda. So so what she shows here, she says, you aren't going to like this post, but it needs to be said about Vance Boelter. At first, I assumed he was just another grifter in the NGO space. He built a fake resume, floated around volunteer gigs, and set up shell organizations for clout. His Red Lion group has no real paper trail. His side business and security services looks like a cash grab. But the more I dug, the more different it looks.
Dude, there's a Red Lion hotel right down the road from me. That's not true. They're a real company.
The Red Lion Hotel is a real company.
They're all over.
But he's saying the Red Lion Group is an NGO that is based out of the Congo. I wonder if he's using like realistic things in order to maybe make a connection for people. He was a 7-Eleven manager, but consistently promoted himself as a corporate executive. He claims the title doctor based on an Ed.D. in leadership. He chased every opportunity to get in front of an audience, volunteering for Governor Walz's workforce development initiative, speaking at conferences, anything to be seen as a leader. And in videos of him made in African churches, you see him light up. He's performing. He's preaching vague, positive platitudes to foreign audiences. He wanted to be somebody. He wanted to be followed. There's a good reason to believe that James Hartland is right, that he was remodeling that building below into a church, not to serve Jesus, but as a stage for an audience that would never come. I think he's a man addicted to attention and status, who tried to get it through a lot of means. And then when the attention dried up, possibly whoever cut off his funding in the Congo, he snapped. She says, I believe Vance Boelter committed violence as a last desperate attempt to be glorified, under the delusion that killing abortion rights activists would make him a martyr or hero. This is not Christianity. I've watched his sermons. They were designed to provoke emotional applause, not spiritual conviction. His actions contradict the standard Jesus gave us, recognizing false prophets. By their fruits you will know them. He bore no good fruit, just narcissism, manipulation, and ultimately violence. He wasn't evangelical or MAGA. He was a man who couldn't stand being ordinary. That's pretty fucking damning, and it sounds fairly spot on, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a tool for people with other political agendas. And they may be the ones who set him up with the NGO connections and with Tim Walz. So that would be interesting to see how that comes out. Well, yeah, I guess this is the church that he was trying to put together.
Never mind. I'm gonna let it go.
What's that? Go ahead. No, dude. I don't know. I don't know anything about the guy. So
no, it's not about the guy. I was just
her analysis.
Talk about whether or not Data Republican is an information op meant to steer public opinion, and this would tend to lead that way. I think that Data Republican thread there draws some responsibility away from the Democrat Party, which is where this fault squarely should lie.
Right.
This guy was a Democrat operative through and through.
Yeah, he was definitely influenced
this guy to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the one thing she's leaving out right now. Right. She may say, well, I have no evidence of that. Okay, fine. But you can clearly draw that conclusion from the things that he's done and the things that he said. So I don't know that I don't know that Data Republican is good, bad, or indifferent. All I do know is that clearly she is picking up on whatever evidence that she can find. And, I appreciate her work, but at the same time, I agree with you, Joe. I think there's something a little more nefarious going on. Somebody's whispering in this guy's ear. And it may be even, it may not just be that. It may be like an actual op.
And I think that we should be very cautious of anything that removes that responsibility. Oh, no, this guy was just crazy. Nah, people use crazy people to do things. Sure, everything she said may very well be 100% true.
Right.
But this guy did not mean it on his own. That he's not capable of that.
Well, yeah. Not only that, but why is everybody looking past the elephant in the room? Who ran USAID? Who runs Bartertown? So who like nobody gets it. You think they just let you into that gravy train?
Yeah, who set him up with this Congo thing, right? A guy who's a 7-Eleven manager, a local grifter like this, is not going to come up with the whole Congo NGO thing on his own. That somebody set him up with that and has basically been pulling his strings. Real quick, I wanted to say thank you again to Low Key LARP, gifted another 5 subs in the chat, man. You guys, you're absolutely, a goat, brother. Appreciate you.
Listen,
you've been very generous lately.
The fact that Pete just put me onto an entire website of the Pete, you don't have a room for me when I get kicked out of my house when packages start showing up. Bro.
You're more than
welcome. All right. So I'm gonna call this the hard break on, and let's dive into what are we looking at here, Joe?
So there was a side conversation we had in the private chat where Pete pointed out that rightly so, that the M81 tie that Hegseth was wearing was fire. So that set me down a path, and I just found a Rhodesian brushstroke tie.
Yeah,
And then
it's the very last.
sent me a whole website of brushstroke stuff. So,
yeah,
there are some very nice things out here. So,
yep, you're more than welcome.
But I'm still buying. I am buying the Rhodesian brushstroke tie. So,
no, of course,
good stuff.
Well, that reminds me of like the liners, the party jackets that people do for their mess dress uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it'll look like just straight up mess dress on the outside, but if you pull the jacket out and it's like infantry blue with like a unit crest or something on the inside, or the whole liner is kind of like a business on the outside, party on the inside. And then have you seen guys will do that with their white shirts, Pete? Have you seen that with the mess dress? Yeah. Like they'll have the unit crest or whatever on the back,
or like they open it like they'll have like the red on the inside of the uniform or whatever, because that's
fucking arty guys always putting red socks and red
And all right, let's get Rhodesian brushstroke like bomber jackets. Yeah.
Don't show Joe that.
I just saw on that website there are Rhodesian brushstroke sports bras, and Mrs. Tactical Wisdom already has Rhodesian brushstroke leggings, and I'm just thinking she needs the whole ensemble.
That's exactly right. Moving on, we kind of dropped the thread on this story once things got spicy last week. So China's aircraft carriers send message in the open Pacific for the first time, and bigger, more powerful ships are coming. Let's see if I remember correctly. They've got carrier number 3 is doing sea trials right now, and carrier number 4 is being
close behind.
Yeah. It's still in dry dock, but it hasn't been launched yet. But it's close behind. For the past month, Chinese aircraft strike groups have been operating further from home shores in greater strength than ever before, testing state-of-the-art technology, sending a message that they are a force to be reckoned with analysis and analysts and officials say. Since early May, the plan, People Liberation Army Navy flotilla led the carrier Shandong has conducted exercises north of the Philippines. Its newest carrier, the soon-to-be commissioned Fujian, has been on sea trials in disputed waters west of the Korean Peninsula. Its oldest carrier, the Liaoning, has led exercises in the Pacific waters of Japan's exclusive economic zone. During the drills, the Fujian, for the first time, conducted aircraft takeoff and landing using its advanced electromagnetic catapult system. Regional defense officials said that's a significant development. The only other carrier in the world that has the system is the U.S. Navy's newest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford. Now, the interesting thing is we had a lot of issues with that because of
it apparently doesn't catch them very well.
Well, the funny thing is, Joe, is when you have an open and free media, and an accountable Department of Defense, that kind of stuff comes out pretty open. We have no idea if China's works, right? And given China's quality control, I don't know, man. I mean, I if it works for them, great. But I doubt it works because it took us a long time to figure. Unless they just copied the last version of ours and then just installed that. Shocking that they would do that. During the drills, I know. I know, right? That's a significant development. Only one carrier. Okay, so we did that one already. Last Monday, Japanese Defense Ministry said the Shandong and its support ships had been exercising in the waters southeast of the island of Miyako in southern Okinawa Prefecture, putting 2 Japanese carrier strike groups in the open Pacific for the first time. At the center of the box of the exercise is Taiwan, the democratic-ruled island claimed by China's Communist Party despite never having controlled it. That's actually a really good point that I've never seen in a CNN article before. Well done, CNN. you go to the head of the class for the mainstream media today. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has vowed to achieve reunification with the island using force if necessary. Analysts note that the Pacific exercises specifically covered areas through which U.S. naval support of Taiwan would need to pass in the event of a conflict. Joe, these carriers, especially once you've got 4 operational, not being far from home would make it a lot easier to lock down Taiwan.
Yeah, it would, and prevent us from impacting the outcome, which is their goal. Even the newest bases that we're putting in the Philippines are within range of China shore-based ballistic missiles. So it's pretty interesting that they have that specific goal with their carrier force, and pay attention to all of the big developmental leaps they've made in amphibious operations. They're not doing that just because they think they might someday need to invade the Solomon Islands. They're doing that for one specific purpose. So,
Pete, what's your kind of take on this?
Pete said in the chat he'd be right back.
Oh, okay. He stepped away. I didn't see that. Watcher, I know you're a China hawk. What's your take?
I think you can't take anything that's happening in the South China Sea alone, and you have to look at what's happening in the world in general and see why China might think now's the correct time to act. And boy, I'll be damned if our attention just isn't split in the worst possible way at the worst possible time. And they really do have a way of doing that. And they are supporting operations in Iran, as far as I've seen, pretty heavily, which all of this is just to normalize the behavior so that when they actually do launch the attack, everybody thinks it's just another drill.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. I think eventually one day we'll see an exercise in which all 4 carriers will be out in the open Pacific, and then that weekend they announce the blockade of Taiwan. And if we get involved in actions in Persia, I don't know that we'll be able to do much about it. Little Bob 840 for $10 says Joe is a proud owner of a Rhodesian Kushiki wizard hat. He just doesn't have it yet.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I think the wizard hats are a silly fad, and I didn't buy one. So if I am Bob, that's a surprise to me.
Well, I'm not saying that one of the people in the chat should absolutely buy that and send it to Camp Ponderosa, of which we.
But I will tell you this. I will tell you this: if it does show up here, it will be worn on a stream. I will guarantee.
There you go. So that happened just now. I'm just saying, and there's plenty. If you look at Joe's the way his head is situated in the little box here, only
there's space. There's a lot of space.
Yeah. For the
Watcher and I were gonna do. Remember before Watcher when I had that Christmas wizard hat thing that my wife made?
Yes.
We were gonna wear it as the amazing. What was it? The Joe Stradamus hat.
Joe Stradamus.
We're gonna throw some images that way, but we could do it with a brushstroke one for sure. So. But listen, Mrs. Tactical Wisdom, they ordered it, not me.
Yeah.
I'll get in trouble.
All right. Anything else on China we need to talk about with the aircraft carriers or anything else, guys?
I would just pay attention to naval developments in that region because things are moving pretty fast.
Yeah, and the irony is that if we get I've always said that the time for China to get stuck in with the the Philippines too, honestly, but with Taiwan is when we are kind of bogged down doing something else. And this whole Iran thing, if we are silly enough to get sucked into it, I think that is that would be the go code for, because even if they don't have 4 carriers, having 2 that can do flight operations with a third that could probably rapidly be worked up puts them in a pretty strong position, especially if our carriers are being shipped over to the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. So
I would like to see.
Yeah. Pete, I just wanted to get your take on what do you think about these Chinese aircraft carriers?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see, I was going to say, like a comparison of how much money, like during the GWAT, right, 2001 to 2021, how much money the U.S. spent on the Navy and how much the Chinese spent on their Navy comparatively. Like it has to be done right because of, various reasons. But yeah, I'd like to see that analysis. So ChatGPT is going to be busy in a little bit. But again, aircraft operation. So you have two aspects. One is the actual building construction of the aircraft carrier, which takes a lot of technical knowledge, and then you have the knowledge of operating an aircraft carrier. I would say that how to actually take off and land, operate an aircraft carrier is harder than constructing it. And when you have no experience in doing it, there's a steep learning curve. We had a steep learning curve during World War II, but people the survivors rapidly learned and they passed on the information. But does China have a system in place for that to occur? Right, a lessons learned, the ability to adapt on very quick events initially.
Yeah, you're on to some stuff because carrier operations is hard.
Yes.
Right. It's not easy. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they are literally using versions of our basically carrier ops SOPs and things like that have been stolen. And if you don't think that they don't have both Chinese and American carrier veterans that they are paying to teach them how to do things, you're crazy because they absolutely do. And it's come out that
there was a guy who was arrested not too long ago about that.
Well, yeah, Joe, don't you remember? I think it was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. The big thing was like
Marine Harrier pilot.
Well, no, it wasn't just pilots. It was like guys teaching, like former soft guys and things like that were going over there and teaching tactical classes and things like this. And they're like, oh, well, they're paying me, so it's the same stuff I'm teaching in my classes back in the States, Well, yeah,
a lot of those guys established like false company names in Australia, and then so they took contracts there. A lot of British pilots got caught up in that. A lot of American pilots and a lot of American special ops guys. So,
is it inherently illegal to do that?
Chinese. It's pretty simple, huh?
Is it inherently illegal? I was asking. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think
what people don't know is that skills are also covered under ITAR. There are certain classes you cannot teach to foreigners. Ask me how I know, because we have Canadians who come to this class and they have to, they have to stop divulging where they're going at the border when they come here. Let me just say that. Anyway.
Little Bob 840 for another $10. Thank you. That is very generous, by the way. Huge brim. They're great for Sundays. Hashtag tactile wisdom.
I'm a little concerned now. Anyway,
I got the feeling he probably has already made his purchase on the website.
Caravaggio, Eric Prince was not involved in training the Chinese. Eric Prince helped them set up a private security company for their African operations, and he was not involved in the training aspect because that would have violated ITAR, and he's pretty smart about ITAR.
He's more the business side, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Still, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm also not a big fan of low key LARP. It's on the way. LOL.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Crowdfunded.
Oh, nice. So yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of whether it's Eric Prince, I support a guy I think is super smart and has a lot of experience in that space, or Elon Musk, another guy that I think highly of, who has a very large China operation. Not a fan of any operations in China. Funded by U.S. money. So I think we tend to be fairly consistent on thinking that China is the enemy, and if you don't think of them as the enemy, then you start thinking of them as your friend. Like, I'm not a fan of Trump allowing Chinese students coming into the American colleges.
We only are going to let in the very best students.
All right. Now, if Trump said, "Listen, you have to pay 100% tariff on college fees," no, that might be worth considering. That'd be a lot of money. All right. Let's move on to our next. Speaking of the security business, there's some interesting stuff happening. Anytime we have the dogs of war in a headline, it's worth talking about. This is an Al Jazeera story. Wagner versus Africa Corps, the future of Russian paramilitaries in Mali. This month, Russian mercenary outfit Wagner Group announced its total withdrawal from Mali, claiming it had completed its mission after 3.5 years of operations in the West African country. For years, Wagner had been battling rebels and armed groups on behalf of the Malian government, as well as asserting Russia's interest in the Sahel. But as Wagner leaves, security advisors from Africa Corps, a Kremlin-controlled paramilitary group, will remain in their place, ensuring a lingering presence of Russian forces. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those guys aren't just hopping from one contract over to the other contract, unless they're deemed to be like Wagner loyalists or something like that. So because Prigozhin's still alive, I'm just kidding. I honestly don't think Prigozhin's alive anymore, but I miss him. He made the Ukrainian war definitely an interesting thing. So what does this mean for Mali? And are there differences between the two Russian paramilitary groups and their mission in Africa? Mali government for decades has been embroiled in conflict with ethnic Tuareg separatists in the Sahara Desert, as well as fighters affiliated with ISIL or ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Previously, French forces assisted Malian government, but they withdrew after a military coup in 2021. The latest round of fighting erupted in 2023 when Bamako military government mounted a new offensive against the rebels. The Malian junta invited, I love juntas, they're always juntas in Africa, invited Wagner and the Russians to support them in Mali. And this really stemmed from frustration with other military support provided by France and other Western partners. Flora Berger, a senior military analyst with the Global Initiative North Africa and Sahel Observatory, told Al Jazeera, they felt that despite years of help, the security situation hadn't improved, and the Western countries kept pressuring them to return to civilian rule, organize elections, etc. Russia, though, through Wagner, on the other hand, offered support without those conditions. It's seen as a more respectful and reliable partner that wouldn't interfere in Mali's political choices. The separation from France also appeared to bolster Malian sovereignty. France is a former colonial overlord, and there's a tense relationship, to say the least. International crisis groups researcher told Al Jazeera. All right, let's see. Long story short, the breakup, they break up and Mali kicks out the French troops, and then deployment in Mali was pretty opportunistic, upsetting the West. It was a big black eye for France. While Moscow maintained an active presence in Africa during the Cold War, its footprint diminished with the post-communist era. The original push into Africa largely came through Wagner. Over time, the program became successful, with interest within the Kremlin more broadly grew, especially after the full-scale war in Ukraine in 2022, when it was a useful narrative that not only is Russia not isolated, but there are African countries that continue to seek its assistance. Experts say mercenaries have been a tool of Russian interest in Africa, capitalizing on discontent in the former neo-colonial power, as well as offering security in exchange for resources, especially in the Central African Republic. This was less so in Mali, however, where despite some small-scale gold mining operations, some Wagnerites were hard-pressed for cash. They were perpetually pictured selling discount canned sardines in local markets. The priority was seemingly more about Russian influence over the Sahel. Now it's an exclusivity, a question of geopolitics ousting the collective West from Africa, creating an anti-Western coalition. That's pretty interesting, Joe. I mean, there definitely seems to have worked over the last, call it 3 years or so, that Western anti-West coalition in the Sahel. You've got Burkina Faso, Mali, you've got Sudan. Actually, that's a little further from the Sahel, but still, the point is that there's a bunch of countries where Niger, you had a former U.S. base there, and they got kicked out, as well as the French. So this is definitely something that's been going, and I think with Russia taking the China model of like, hey, no stipulations, no conditions. You tell us what job to do, and we'll do it as long as you pay us, or give us the interest, whether it's gold mines or other type of minerals. I mean, it seems to be working for Russia.
It does, and this was an area that was absolutely dominated by France and Belgium. The two of them had sub-Saharan Africa on lockdown for a long time. That's why Belgian brushstroke is a thing camouflage-wise. Yeah. And France has had a big influence throughout that region. Most of these countries' money is actually French colonial francs. So they have a very tough time digging them out. And this has been a big win for Russia and China to replace France in there. And by the way, I'll mention it yet again. Trarari needs to sell me some of the camouflage that he has designed, because that's good stuff. We'll support him. So.
Yeah, it's not. It has nothing to do with his human rights, record. It has everything to do with his camo rights record. So
right.
All right. Sorry, I just got looking at Fire Force Ventures again.
It'll happen, right?
That link is fire. All right. Let me look at this. All right. So Ukrainian factor, a contingent of Wagner and Malian troops was ambushed by Tuareg rebels near the Algerian border in July, claiming the lives of 84 Russian mercenaries and 47 Malian soldiers. A blogger behind the Wagner link Telegram channel Gray Zone said, Ukraine's spy agency, the GRU, admitted that it provided crucial intelligence. Now, that's the military intelligence, right? GRU. GUR.
GRU.
No, GUR is what it says here. GRU is the old Russian one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's what confused me, because it's similar but different. Anyway, let's see. Ukraine's spy agency admitted it provide crucial intelligence to the rebels against Russia. They were also reporting that Ukrainians taught the rebels how to operate the drones. In response, Mali broke off diplomatic relations with Ukraine. We're not really sure if it's still ongoing. At the time, there are reports that other Ukrainian allies were pressuring Ukrainians not to do that. He explained, noting that the perceived close ties between jihadist groups and some of the separatists may have Kiev's Western backers nervous. If Kiev comes in and tries to help ISIS so that they can kill more Russians, not a good look, Ukraine. That's not a way to get the U.S. to help you out. Let's see. The biggest crowning victory of the Malian military in the last couple of years was the retaking of the town Kidal, which was a long time separatist stronghold. It's kind of a victory that people point to, say without Wagner, it wouldn't have been possible. The jihadists in just the last 2 weeks have attacked 3 major Malian military camps. They also attacked the city of Timbuktu. We've all heard of that. And they put an IED at a joint. They put an IED at a joint Malian Wagner training camp just outside the capital city of Bamako. So it's definitely heating up over there. This kind of goes on, but I feel like we've kind of covered where they're at right now. I don't really care about the differences between the Afrika Korps and the Wagner. But final thoughts, guys, on how is the Sahel and this African conflict? How is it piecing together in the larger picture? Do you think, Pete? You want to jump in on that one? Joe's already kind of gave us his thoughts. Or is Pete's gone again? Okay.
Oh yeah, I guess Pete is gone again.
Joe, I'll let you take that one. Where do you think this whole thing fits in the kind of the larger global conflict picture?
I think that it's just a better spot for Russia and China to be gathering their rare earths to build up their military machine for the days that are ahead. And this is just helping them solidify it. The transfer, this isn't so much a pullout as a transfer of responsibility and a change of contract. They're really, like you said, most of the guys are just going to swap contracts out. We've seen that happen before with U.S. contractors. Mm-hmm. So I really don't think those guys are actually going anywhere.
Yeah, to me, even says here in the story, it says that while there's substantial overlap between the two paramilitary groups, with some estimates claiming that 70 to 80% of Afrika Korps personnel being Wagner veterans, they're definitely different organizations. In fact, it says here, in fact, they're separate entities. Afrika Korps is closely managed by the Russian military Ministry of Defense and the GRU, which is Russia's military intelligence. Than Wagner was. However, they do have similarities. Many of those recruited to the Afrika Korps, including many commanding officers, were former Wagner mercenaries. I'll be honest with you, Joe. I'd rather be working for Wagner and in Africa than working Spetsnaz missions in Ukraine,
or in Sudan.
So yeah. They just lost a bunch of guys in Sudan recently. All right, let's call it there. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about tactical-wisdom.com?
Yeah, I'm going to be writing an article about overcoming apathy and this idea that there's bad things happening in the world and in the country, but it's okay because Netflix is on or whatever. Because I was kind of taken aback by Saturday. I was in Denver in the midst of a legit riot when a buddy of mine from high school was like, "Hey man, I know you're in town. Let's go grab a beer." So I drive 1.5 miles away, and the rest of the city is just operating as normal. Everyone's out having a drink, and no one knew why the police helicopters were circling the area. So I told them, and they were all like, "Oh, they're riding and burning down parts of the town? Cool. Can I get another beer?" And until we change that attitude, we're going to be on the losing end of this. That's the attitude that led to the Ukraine's color revolution in 2014. The thing is folks don't realize how little it takes to actually make massive change. In the Ukraine, those kids didn't overthrow the country. They secured 7 buildings in like a 13-block area, and were all of a sudden the new rulers of the country. And that's how you ended up with Zelensky. It took a couple more years to get to him, but that's how we ended up where we are today. And I feel like in America, there's this grave feeling or great overall feeling that none of that stuff can ever happen here. Neat. It's not ever going to happen to us, so we can just keep on doing our thing. And that's just not true, right? We have to get to the point where we have to wake up. They're literally killing people. They've started wearing uniforms. They've started carrying guns, and they're literally calling for the deaths of anyone who disagrees with them. We need to get beyond our apathy. So that's what I'm going to be talking about this week. I might be highly fired up about it, but that's just because I'm out there seeing these things happen, and most people just shrug their shoulders at it, like, "Yeah, man, but I got to go to work on Monday." Yeah, right up until you don't. Right up until they decide that you are an extraneous person because they've taken over things. So I want everyone to kind of wake up to where we are in the moment we are at in history. We have a governor calling for open resistance to the federal government. That's not normal, and that's not what's going to be okay in 3 days, right? So,
yeah, that's a good.
And guys, stop with who do you mean we? I'm talking about as a country. I know maybe Mr. K, you specifically are different. I get it. But we're talking about a bigger issue.
That's a great point. I just want to kind of say real quick. I mean, that's kind of a like if the shoe fits, wear it type of thing. I mean, we all know that we are not all perfect, right? Like, some of us fall short in one area or another, and some of you guys are fucking all over it. I've talked to several of you, and I'm like, Jesus, I wish I was like as prepped as this guy is, because we all have our own challenges, right? Like me being in Korea, it makes it a lot harder for me to have the same kind of level of preps as say Joe does, right?
But it's also a symptom of the problem, because those people would rather argue with me about saying we as a country are in this spot. Like, yeah, but I'm not. Well, you're missing the bigger point, right? You'd rather argue with me about the fact that you're prepared than actually tell your neighbor to get off his butt and do something, right? It's so weird. It's an odd spot.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not really talking to anybody. But if you guys are here in the chat, you guys are doing the right thing. Not only are you getting out there and you're doing it, but you're actually you're kind of walking the walk and you're talking the talk, right? For the most part, what we're talking about are just I hate to say it, there's a lot of people on X that are like that, that want to, like ankle bite, right? Throw wet blankets, just kind of, because Joe spends a lot of time out, let me just say it. He's doing the Lord's work out there. And a lot of people don't appreciate it. So, like I said, if the shoe fits, wear it.
I pointed out in one thing that I put in a group chat, I put out a picture of of the PSL organizers, which they actually have staffers.
Yeah.
They're all wearing Bernie Sanders shirts, by the way. Anyway, the PSL staffers all had Baofeng DM1701 radios on their hips. They were using them all day. And this guy says, LOL, but they don't even know how to program them. Well, genius. If they were using them all day, they obviously were programmed.
Yeah.
Duh.
But you got to remember, like, just because you have a radio in your hip doesn't mean you know how to program it. If like a lot of groups, they'll have a commo guy that basically handles their comms, right? And let's be honest, he's probably a former Army commo guy who's a disaffected leftist, So, I mean, they've don't ever think that these people don't have skills and aren't competent. They absolutely are. All right, real quick, let me shoehorn in my my brush reader store ad. Today we're diving into the Iran-Israel war and the pro-immigration insurrection rocking our nation. We're proud to bring you another ad for our trusted sponsor, Brush Beater Store. I love being able to say that we're talking about the insurrection and it's brought to you by Brush Beater Store. Like, that's how you know somebody supports what you're doing, is they'll let you like freely just kind of call it how we see it. They are equipping you for the world in chaos. Israel's June 13th, 2025 strikes on Iran's nuclear sites have sparked a deadly missile war, while the U.S. pro-immigration riots in L.A. saw looters torch cars and battle 2,000 National Guard troops. From Tehran's battlefields to America's street, threats lurk in the shadows. At Brushbeater.store, their night vision and comms gear keep you ready. The AGM Wolf 14 NW1, priced around $2,295, is a budget-friendly Gen 2 Plus monocule with handheld or helmet-mounted use. Perfect. It's basically PVS 14s, right? Perfect for spotting threats in urban unrest. For elite performance, use the AGM NVG40 NW1, which is a $6,795 dual tube Gen 2 plus white phosphorus clarity for tactical operations. God, I want some of those dual tubes. There's also the AR-152 VHF UHF radio under $60. Ensures secure comms. Paired with NC Scouts Guerrilla Guide to the Baofeng radio use. Visit their newly opened Yanceyville, North Carolina showroom, celebrating it was the past weekend, right? It's when when the grand opening was.
Yep. It's on the Army's birthday. So.
That's right. Go to the store to test night vision in a state-of-the-art dark room. Check out brushbeater.store/collection/night-visions or collection/radios to gear up now. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off night vision, radios, or any gear like manuals or training courses. Orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit brushbeater.store and prep for the fight. Thanks to Matt, the owner. King, congratulations on the grand opening of the showroom. Matt, your dedication to the Council on Future Conflict and our community's strength is unmatched. Thank you very much. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and own the night. Now let's dive into today's.
Hold on, 2 notes on this radio. One, people have questions about its capabilities. I've had 2 failures with these. The first one was somebody at the Scout and Recce course, as Be Prepared mentions. She landed face first on her radio, and the antenna broke, but not the radio. So the radio was fine. The other one, I dropped one squarely on some rocks in Oklahoma while teaching a class, and the screen broke, but the radio kept working. So they are very durable and solid radios. The AR-152 is a legit radio. It's real good.
That's awesome.
And buy a laser ham antenna if you want one, or if you want a good jungle antenna, buy the laser ham one. It's good stuff.
Very good. And by the way, if you want this radio, he also has different antennas. They've got the gooseneck antenna and a couple others. So all kinds of stuff at Brushbeater at store. And like I said, if you get anything while you're over there, CFC10 for 5%. And if you get anything over $100, it's free shipping. So I'd be curious in the chat if you've gone to brushbeater.store because of our little ads. Like, give me a 1 in the chat. I want to see a little real world feedback if this is helpful for you guys. I'm just curious because I know, a lot of times you may not. Yeah, let's see one already. I know that like some of this stuff is expensive. I mean, good gear is not going to be cheap, right? These radios are let's be honest, these radios are, just because they're cheap doesn't mean they're not good. They're just, this is fairly solid old technology, right? Some of the newer stuff out, like what is it, the DMR 32? Didn't you say that's kind of like the latest and greatest out of the Baofeng universe?
Yeah, it's a pretty good radio. I used one all weekend.
So a couple ones in the chat. So I'm glad it's been helpful for you guys. I mean, it's I'm just glad that we've got people that are willing to support the channel that have like the same things in common that we do. Oh, good Lord. I'm sorry. I'm sharing you guys a link in the chat here. And I blame Matt for this because this is how I found this.
And listen, J-Sup and Rick, yes, the CFC is why you 2 went to G Camp, because you went to meet me and Scott, and I feel sorry for you because that was rough, man. We had a good time, but it was rough. And Johnny, for the record, J-Sup will make you roast beef at what, 1 a.m., Scott?
Yeah, it was awesome. She was awesome. Yeah. I'm just looking at the chat. You guys we got the best chat. All right. Let me let's see. Guys, so let's talk about the war that broke out this past weekend. So I'm going to give you guys a little kind of overview on what's going on. So this is Operation Rising Lion. We covered it on Friday, but it just was getting kicked off. Israel launched a large-scale aerial assault, codenamed Operation Rising Lion, targeting Iranian nuclear facilities, Natanz, Kandab, Koran Abad, missile factories.
For those of you who said you were here just to hear Scott mispronounce Iranian place names, congratulations.
Koran Ramabad it's one of those kind of things you've heard the name before, but you've never seen the word, so it's kind of like it takes a second for your brain to catch up. And command structures across cities like Tehran, Shiraz, Tabriz. The operation coordinated by the IDF and the Mossad aimed to cripple Iran's nuclear program and ballistic missile capabilities, which Israel claimed were nearing weapons-grade uranium production. So evidently, the thing I heard, I guess it was today, so it would have been yesterday for you guys, is that essentially they were within days of being able to merge a weapon with a missile. So it was specifically the missile, the kind of the conjunction of the weapons technology and the missile technology that really spooked the Israelis. My question is, why the fuck didn't the Israelis just like why didn't they tell us ahead of time? You know, I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of. It sounds to me like outside of like, hey, we're getting ready to drop bombs on these guys. You know, that was the warning that the administration got. Key targets and casualties. Israel killed senior Iranian military figures, including IRGC commander Hosni Salami, armed forces chief of staff, nuclear scientists. Civilian casualties were reported, including 60 people in a Tehran apartment complex. Iran's health ministry reported 224 deaths and over 1,200 injuries. Israeli justification is that Netanyahu claimed the strikes were preemptive, citing intelligence that Iran was actively assembling nuclear weapons components. Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danton was stated Iran had enough enriched uranium for multiple bombs, posing an existential threat to the state of Israel. Critics argued Netanyahu's motives were partly political, tied to domestic pressures and corruption charges. Iranian response is that Iran retaliated with waves of ballistic missiles and drones targeting Israeli cities like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa. These attacks, dubbed Operation Honest Promise 3, including advanced Hajim Qasim missiles, some evading Israel's Iron Dome. Casualties and damage. Iranian strikes killed at least 24 Israelis with 380 injuries by June 16th. Notable incidents included missile strikes in Rishon LeZion, 2 killed, 19 injured. Haifa, 4 women killed. Israelis' aerospace and airports were closed and civilian life was disrupted. Iranian strategy seems to be aimed at demonstrating its missile capabilities while avoiding attacks by the U.S. bases on U.S. bases to prevent American intervention. Foreign Minister Agrachi signaled willingness to return to diplomacy if Israel ceased attacks, but Supreme Leader Khamenei vowed no mercy. Let's see some of the broader impacts.
Nuclear missed an opportunity here with the naming of their operation. They should have named it Operation Taming the Lion. That would have been funny. But Honest Promise, come on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Honest Promise, right. Must be a Persian like word thing. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see some of the impacts. The nuclear program. Israel's strikes damaged key nuclear sites, but experts warned that Iran could still produce weapons-grade uranium for 9 bombs within a month if the Fordlow facility remained operational. Iran's prior enrichment of 60%, far beyond civilian needs, fueled fears of a renewed push for nuclear weapons. Regional dynamics. Iran's proxies like Yemen's Houthis launched supporting missile attacks on Israel, while Hezbollah's capabilities were diminished from prior Israeli strikes. Iraq condemned the Israeli threats to expand the conflict and condemned Israeli threats to expand the conflict, requesting an Arab League session. International response: U.S. President Trump denied U.S. involvement, but supported Israel's warning Iran that targeting U.S. interests. Planned U.S.-Iran nuclear talks in Oman were canceled. Allies were critical. Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey condemned Israel's strikes as violations of sovereignty. The UN, EU, and others urged de-escalations with calls for diplomacy from leaders like Keir Starmer and the Pope. Iran accused the U.S. of complicity, while Israel rejected calls for restraint, with Netanyahu projecting regime change in Iran as a possible outcome. Analysts warn of a protracted conflict risking regional instability. So, guys, I mean, essentially what we've got here is the makings for a short and potentially very bloody war. I don't know. I think that, the first 24 hours, I remember Iran saying things like, U.S., you're responsible for this. And so there's going to be a reckoning for you. Right. But ultimately it seems since then, they've kind of backed off from that, stating that they are avoiding U.S. bases. Guys, what's your take on like just how this has gone? Israel doesn't seem to be going for decapitation strikes against the civil leadership. That's I don't know if that's surprising, but if regime change is something they were really interested in, that seems like something that they might consider eventually.
They targeted some of the nuclear scientists, like 18 have been killed.
Yeah, it's the nuclear scientists and IRGC and other military leaders are specifically the ones that they went after. And the precision with which they knew where these guys were, it makes me feel like they got the entire leadership wired.
I think we should also talk about like how they had a lot of essentially like infiltrators in the country prior to the event. And like they had been there for quite a while because they had stockpiles of some of these drones ready to go.
Yeah, that's parts in for over a year.
And
everything. I just shared the link there that Chester did of a map he made of the Iranian strike or the Israeli strikes on Iran. It's actually a pretty good map.
But yeah, I think that's also very parallels our situation here in the States, right? Just like was it John Steinman who always talks about how many infiltrators are in the States?
Yeah.
Yep.
My answer always is all of them.
Yeah, too many. All right, so let me give you just an update of what Israel did yet on the 16th, right? So, you got some maps and some stuff you can pull for this. Let's see. Israel's expanded air campaign. Target expansion. Israel broadened its airstrikes beyond nuclear facilities and military bases to include Iranian regime institutions linked to the internal security and social control. This included facilities associated with the IRGC and other entities enforcing domestic order, aiming to weaken the regime's ability to suppress dissent. They also struck energy infrastructure. The IDF targeted Iran's energy sector, likely hitting power plants or oil facilities. These strikes risk causing widespread energy shortages, which is probably what they want. Talk about a way to destabilize a society, take away their civil energy. Eastern Reach, Israel conducted strikes as far east as Mashhad, targeting an Iranian aerial refueling aircraft. By the way, I didn't even realize Iran had a tanker, but evidently they did. It's one of basically the holdouts from the late 70s, and they still had it flying, I guess. This operation demonstrated Israel's long-range capabilities and aimed at establish air superiority by crippling Iran's ability to sustain prolonged air operations. The expanded campaign reflects Israel's goal not only to neutralize Iran's nuclear and missile threats, but also to pressure the regime's stability, potentially encouraging internal unrest or regime change. The strikes exploit Iran's weakened military leadership, followed by early losses. So on the military response today, we saw Iran launch its 10th wave of ballistic missile attacks on Israel, targeting cities such as Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. These attacks have used advanced missiles such as the Hajj Qasim, but were less effective due to prior IDF strikes that damaged missile launchers and storage silos. The report notes that Iran's retaliatory capabilities are constrained. IDF operations have degraded Iran's missile production and launch infrastructure, reducing the scale and precision of Iranian counterattacks compared to earlier waves. You know, something, Joe, that one of the things that we saw, and Pete, this might be of interest to you as well. Israel has real-time intel on the things that they're targeting, right? They can see the moves and everything like that. I don't know that Iran has any real, like, they may have some people in place in Israel, but I don't know if they're able to, really keep tabs the way Israel is. I mean, let's be honest, they're probably having to use public internet in order to, or
everything
maybe they have.
Israel comes from any Hamas operative.
Hamas and Hezbollah. Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
It's way more on the outside looking in. I don't know that and they may have some intel operatives within the IDF or some of these other organizations in Israel, but I highly doubt it. If the Mossad, by the way, it is Mossad Monday. Speaking of,
I think they have some eyes on the ground, not much, but again, also Israel. We were talking about CI before. I think almost all Israelis have some sort of like ingrained CI elements for them to like make sure that like they're not being tailed, they're not being solicited, blah blah blah, and so forth.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Looking at the leadership losses for Iran, Iranian state media confirmed deaths of IRGC intelligence chief and deputy in Israeli strikes. Those losses further weakened. Actually, Watcher, can you bring up that chart with the leadership chart, the IRGC leadership chart? Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. They're kind of working their way through the line and block chart here. Let's see. They confirmed that the IRGC intel chief was killed. Let's see. The losses further weakened Iran's command structure following earlier killings of senior figures like IRGC commander Hossein Salami and the Air Force Chief of Staff Mohammad Bagheri. Internal measures, the Bashi mobilization. Iran Armed Forces General Staff ordered the deployment of the Bashi paramilitary forces to counter alleged Mossad infiltration. The Bashi, a volunteer militia under the IRGC control, is tasked with suppressing internal dissent and securing regime control areas. If you don't think this force is not also thinking about internal security, you're fooling yourself. That being said, this force is probably also rife with people who are on the Israeli payroll. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see some of these militias act in the interest or against the interests of the IRGC. Regime stability concerns. The call for the Bashi deployment reflects growing fears of internal unrest exacerbated by energy shortages and public frustration over military losses. The regime is prioritizing control over dissent to prevent protests or uprisings amid external pressure. And then, Watcher, you had an interesting point about that earlier. Do you want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of reports on the ground, and logistics in the country being what they are. There's no fuel. There's almost no fuel anywhere. The people are queuing for many hours at a time to get fuel. There's no fuel to move the trucks to move the fuel. There's no fuel to move the food, which they don't produce not sure if you're aware of this, but large cities kind of do have this issue of not being able to produce a lot of food on account of the need for large fields and not having any. So they're in a very desperate situation from what I've seen. The people that are in Tehran itself are trying to get out, but unless they got out within the first 72 hours, there's almost no fuel for anyone to leave anywhere. So regardless of people's intentions or security forces in place, when there's nothing to eat and no one can get out, things tend to devolve in a very specific way.
Yeah. I mean, that's where human nature, takes over in the collapse, right? It's like they start going after sources of food. Now, there's a lot of guns involved, so let's say people start pushing up against one of these militia groups, right? And the militia group just says, "I've had enough of this," and just kind of opens up into the crowd. That that act alone could be uniquely destabilizing, specifically in a particular region or something along those lines. Information control. Iranian authorities are likely downplaying the extent of damage and casualties to maintain public morale. State media's acknowledgement of high-profile deaths suggests an attempt to rally support by framing the conflict as an existential fight against Israel. That's actually pretty interesting, I thought, Joe, is how quickly we're seeing these confirmations of some of these deaths of these key leaders. Because in the past, we've seen efforts to kind of slow play that.
Yeah. I think that some of them, they can't hide, right? Like everyone knew who lived in X apartment building when the 8th floor blew out the windows, they knew exactly who died.
Right.
So it becomes kind of hard to hide that in a country like that.
Like our Pizza Hut indicator, right?
Yeah, outside the Pentagon. Yeah.
The Domino's index. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. The Domino's index is a good one, but the watching that local gay bar seems to be the new hotness.
The new hot.
Speaking of which, regional dynamics. Iraqi militias stance. So the Iranian-backed Iraqi militias, part of the Axis of Resistance, condemned Israel strikes, but have not yet launched attacks on Israel or U.S. forces. However, they've issued strong warnings against U.S. intervention, signaling potential escalation if American forces are perceived as aiding Israel. Hezbollah and other proxies we haven't seen any real action out of Hezbollah or other Iranian proxies like Yemen's Houthis outside of the missiles from Yemen. Suggests their involvement at this point remains limited. Hezbollah's reduced capacity due to prior strikes. Prior Israeli strikes in Lebanon likely restricts its ability to support Iran. And they've also been fairly cut off from Iran since HTS took over the Syrian government. For all its faults, HTS is no friend of Hezbollah. Regional tensions. The conflict risks drawing other regional actors. Iraq's request for Arab League session and combination from its countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey indicate broader regional unease about the war's potential to destabilize the Middle East. What'll be interesting, Joe, is if we literally see this war be maintained at the bomb and missile level, because this is a kind of a weird war where you've got two countries that aren't next to each other fighting a full scale war.
Well, I think too, though, that what you're not seeing is the vast number of asymmetric conflicts going on. How many skirmishes have happened in the middle of the desert in Iraq between commandos from both sides, right? Who knew where each other were all along. And they said, all right, you go take out the secret Iranian training camp. And they said, go take out the Israeli drone base. And I don't think you're ever going to hear about those skirmishes that take place, or the dead guy found in an alley in Vienna, or the dead Iranian dude found outside of a bar in Mogadishu. These kind of things are probably going on all over the world too, between them, but they're not drawing the headlines. As an example of this, remember, 4 years ago, we snatched a couple of Iranians coming over the border who had plans on them to kill the Saudi ambassador, right? I mean, how often does that kind of thing happen between Israel and Iran? And it has to be at a much higher tempo now that they're actually fighting each other, but they never make the headlines.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Pete. Any thoughts on where the war is at? I wanted to just kind of give an overview of not only like what happened over the weekend, but like what's happened in the last 24 hours. Any thought on that before we
it goes
kind
back
of
to kind of what I was saying. Sorry, kind of goes back to what I was saying about how Israel was able to infiltrate significant numbers of men and material into Iran over several years, undetected, launched them and utilized them undetected. And I'm assuming egress undetected. And I think that is what should be. You can talk about decapitation. We can talk about the greater geopolitical effects. But for the United States, that aspect of the war is something that we have to take seriously, because it will occur here in America if we were ever to have a hot war with China, or if we have, you always have that lone wolf from other nations who can recruit and go after other soft targets in the United States, especially now since we kind of let our guard down after 9/11, since it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
That and in the last several and over the last 24 hours, it's just been it has been a tit for tat going back and forth, missile strikes back and forth, drone strikes back and forth. A lot are being shot down by Israeli air defense, and it does look like Iranians' air defense is completely down.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've noticed is I have not seen. I think I saw one Israeli drone that was supposedly shot down, but other than that, like I have not seen any reports of Israeli jets.
Yeah,
and the jets are clearly they're doing work, because Watcher, share the link that I just put in the private chat. This is a Clash Report tweet from 10 minutes ago, and it says Tehran an hour ago.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, Tehran is basically a city surrounded by mountains. And it looks like whoever's up on that mountaintop is getting shellacked.
Gone. And I think the ADA aspect is something, the air defense aspect is something else that the United States needs to take seriously, because while we have good systems, but they're old and cumbersome. And they are not, and we do not have the ability to quickly take something from conception into battle, get into the hands of the soldier very well. We don't.
Yeah, Joe.
I'd point out that looks like a pretty darn good spot to put an ADA installation. Well, or it was a pretty good spot to put an ADA installation.
And people get all uppity when Israel had ADA assets in Tel Aviv and proper, and obviously, like tactically and operationally and strategically, that's where you're going to put them in order to protect the city. Like it's not like using them as human shields, as some people tried to say.
Yeah. Interestingly, Jesus said, "If you have enough faith, you could command this mountain to move from here to there, and it will." It looks like somebody commanded that mountain to move, and it did.
Yeah, it reminds me of some of the strikes, Moab strikes in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I saw JDAMs drop a couple times. They were pretty impressive. Let's see. One of the so according to the Israeli government, 30 locations have been recorded where Iranian missiles have hit in recent days, with a total of 370 missiles fired. That's not including the drones and things like that. It's I mean, I get the feeling that Israel's intercepting a lot more missiles than we're hearing about. The problem is there enough are getting through to where it basically looks like they're fairly effective. I'm just kind of going through here. Let's see. All right. So this next post. This is from OSINT Defender. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, has said there's a sudden power loss at the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran, resulting from Friday's airstrike. May have destroyed some of the roughly 14,000 underground centrifuges, which are fragile and can break if they aren't shut down gradually. Additionally, an Israeli official said that there were indications that the underground portion of the Natanz may have imploded. He had cautioned that additional assessments were needed, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. That's interesting. That if they get BDA, that it indicates that that they've essentially taken out the underground facility there. Joe, that's always been, or actually Pete, those underground, the UGFs are the ones that are underground facilities. Have always been the kind of the bugaboo, because that's kind of the place they could hide their stuff real deep. It's
their version of, what's that thing in West Virginia? That's hotel, or like NORAD in the Rocky Mountains and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta.
Yeah, I mean, it is obvious. It should be obvious to the producers of missile systems and the procurers that you're going to need weapon systems that it can breach those locations. And the breaching ability has only gotten better since they were really first utilized, I think, in the first Gulf War, 91.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, it's about the ability to produce faster than your threat or your enemy can, or react faster than your enemy can. And right now, the United States is still kind of slow and cumbersome. I've heard that they're gotten better. I have a source who works for one of the arsenals, and they're getting a little bit better, but still frustrating.
Yeah, it's that's one of the things that I'm worried that they're gonna try to talk us into. Hey, all we need is you to drop a Moab or two for us.
Yeah. Just a tip, just the tip of the Moab. That's all we need.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Yeah, not ouch, pull my hair.
I love it when we get the nerds in the chat. All right. Sorry, chat. You guys are fine. Just having to do a little house cleaning there.
Do we know the type of drones and autonomous autonomous means were used?
By the Israelis or by the
Israelis?
Yeah. So my understanding is that they were using spike endless missiles.
Okay.
But controlled from the internet. So remote operated. Game. Yeah. Out in the middle of the desert. And they were using those both as anti-air. They were using those against anti-aircraft sites. And I'm sure they also had some other systems that they actually had FPV drones and things like that.
So what is that term when they go after radar sites and ADA sites? The mission set.
Seed.
That's it. Yep.
Dead. Suppression of enemy air defense.
Yeah.
Destruction of enemy air defense. All right. This next post is Intel Doge on X. Large fire cooking off at Mashhad. IDF to have struck an Iranian military plane. So you can literally see there's a plane burning on the ground, and there's like a giant airliner like right next to it. So it's causing a hell of a fire. Yeah, that one, Watcher, share that one. And so this is, I think, 1,000 miles into Iran. So this is more in the eastern portion of the country. So it's kind of, they're flexing their muscle a little bit with strikes like this to show that essentially you can't stop us from going wherever we want. But these are the kind of strikes that, you just have to have that tanker support for. Let's see. This is a report from overnight. Iran's overnight attacks on Israel included a total of 70 ballistic missiles and dozens of drones, according to IDF estimates. Missiles were fired in 3 ways at 11 p.m., 2 a.m., and 2:55 a.m., coinciding with dozens of drones. One projectile struck a home in the town of Tamara, killing 4 civilians. Another struck Bat Yam, killing at least 6 civilians and wounding nearly 200. Another struck Revolt, wounding another 40 people. Military says that so far Iranian attacks are below the reference scenario, or what IDF had anticipated with the war with Iran. The IDF had estimated far larger numbers of casualties and more significant damage. Iran is believed to possess thousands of ballistic missiles. Here's the thing. I wonder if Iran's in a position like if we show them where they're coming from, they're just going to blow up the storage sites. So they're only able to drab the missiles out. Or maybe they're literally not trying to hit Israel as hard as they can. They just want to hit them hard enough to try to coerce Israel back to the table. Joe, I mean, the interesting thing, we saw this last year when Israel basically, neutered them of air defense systems, when they basically took out their entire integrated air defense system in one night. And that was last year. We always thought, there's going to be a massive response by Iran eventually. And there just was never a massive response, right? They shot some kind of tepid ballistic missile strikes, but they were against Israeli military sites. Now we've got the full war going on, and I don't see Iran striking Israel nearly as hard. I mean, it sounds like the IDF thinks, this is well below what they were expecting. What do you think is up with this response?
I don't know. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. So I don't know where it's going. I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I
mean, guys, we all kind of thought that they were going to hit with asymmetric attacks too, like Israeli embassies overseas, or, maybe blame the Americans and come after us.
Well, there's still chances that they have this type of operations, ready to set to go, but they just haven't pulled the trigger yet. Almost like branches and sequels, like just depending on how certain attacks go.
Yeah.
No stuff. I know to use proper terminology.
That's all right. Branches and sequels. Hey, I went to ILE.
All right. I learned this way before I went to ILE.
Formosa Descender, amazing footage showing launch of ballistic missiles earlier today by Iran against Israel from the cockpit of a commercial airliner flying over Dubai. This is pretty spectacular, you have to admit.
I don't know that I buy it, but okay.
I mean, if it's true, I don't know if it's true. I mean, it looks good. It looks realistic to me.
Looks like at least one blew up on the way up.
Well, I wondered if these aren't multi-stage rockets, and that what we're seeing is basically the rocket go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I mean, so like you see how the higher up ones, it's getting more diffuse. It's like more like a shade type. Well, it's a light, but that's like the when you get up in vacuum, you get the plume spreads out. I don't know. I just thought it was cool, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. It's ballistic missiles from 30,000 feet. All right.
I'm waiting for more of the tungsten kinetic type of attacks from space.
Yeah, well, I don't think Israel has that.
I mean, that's space lasers, don't they? That's what I've heard.
That's right. So daylight reveals much clearer image of the impact at Bat Yam, south of Tel Aviv, where death toll currently sits at 4 and injuries at over 200, while around 35 are believed to still be missing beneath the rubble. Search and rescue teams in the IDF Home Front Command, Zaka, and other first responders continued to work around the clock to find survivors. Go to the next. There's some video on the next X post. All right. So we got blow this up. So, guys, I'll be honest with you. Based on the damage that I'm seeing, I can't believe it's so light. The casualties are so light. I mean, 200 wounded. I mean, many of those could be very serious, but still, it could be a whole lot worse. Firing into Tel Aviv and some of the suburbs surrounding it. I mean, I get
it's very. I mean, it is very targeted. I will grant you that.
Yeah,
but again, so I mean, that doesn't send a message. The Iranian people are obviously getting caught up in this, but it's sending a message. Hey, we're not targeting you. We're targeting these very specific people or locations.
Let's see. There's another video here, or this is just a picture of the building. There's another view. I mean, this is the kind of thing you got to expect, though, in a situation like this. It's, you're not going to get out unscathed.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's going to be up to the Iranian people. Like, no external force, no matter really how large. I mean, technically large could do it, but Iran's a very large country. It has a sizable population. It is not Iraq. Terrain-wise, geography-wise. So this is going to be any type of fundamental change is going to have to come from the people themselves. I mean, they are the descendants of the people who were involved in the 79 revolution. So revolution is in their blood, just like, heritage Americans in their blood is those who rebelled against the Brits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Persian people are very proud people. So eventually I think, and let's be honest.
And they are Persian. They are not Arab.
Yeah. Despite the fact that they lived under a totalitarian Islamic state, there's been a shocking amount of kind of free expression in that state over the years. I'm reminded of basically when Barack Obama basically left the protesters. What was it? Was it 2014?
Yep. The Green Revolution.
Or whatever it was. And they basically left all those people, and like over 2,000 people were executed over that.
Yeah. But I mean, ultimately in 2014, what could the U.S. really have done beyond?
I don't know, but you got a whole CIA that you were using to do other things with at the time.
But there would have been very little militarily they could have done. Diplomatically, maybe, but
honestly, I always thought you could using agents, using like Dari speaking Afghan mercenaries. I always thought there were a lot of opportunities there. They could have snuck some of those guys in to help.
What year was the Maidan Revolution?
Maidan, that was 14.
Yeah, so I think they were too busy focusing on that.
Well, causing it versus.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I was inferring.
Yeah. Let's see. This next story: Armada of U.S. Air Force tankers just deployed east over the Atlantic, spurring speculation. Over 24 U.S. Air Force KC-135R and KC-46A tankers from across the United States appeared on flight tracking software yesterday evening, taking off from their bases and heading east over the Atlantic. It isn't clear if they were dragging any combat aircraft with them, but there wasn't any obvious signs of that. While tanker movements in that direction are far from abnormal, such a large, nearly simultaneous migration of the jets was very peculiar, especially at a time of extreme crisis in the Middle East. The exact reason for the mass deployment is unclear, although many of the potential answers would indicate a change or preparation for a potential change in the current conflict between Israel and Iran. And so we've got a bunch of just kind of tweets here showing this kind of mass migration of the tankers. So right there it was let's see, 24, then 26, then 28, and the last word I got was 32 total tankers moving in the direction of Europe. Open source enthusiasts took to social media after all the tankers began popping up on flight tracking software. At its peak, it appeared that at least 28 tankers were all heading east, while there is a multinational exercise in Norway that's about to kick off. That wouldn't require anything like this level of relocation of refueling assets. There's no other apparent exercise or commitment that would necessitate such an operation. On the other hand, these are precisely the assets that would be needed if the United States were to change its support from Israel's Operation Rising Lion, or if there were urgent concerns that the conflict is about to widen significantly.
I'm not sure who it is, but someone is reporting that the Defense Department has confirmed this is to give the president response options for Iran.
So they're prepping, for something.
Yeah. Also, the other thing that I saw this morning was a confirmation that Iran says that they'll come to the table magically this morning, which last night when I saw this take off, I was like, I don't know if we're going to war, but I'll tell you, this would be one hell of a pump fake.
Yeah. Let's see. Outside of some unlikely signaling move, the undisclosed massive exercise or somewhat yet to be known long-established commitment, there were 4 possible explanations for the movement. Number one is that the U.S. has decided or is preparing for the possibility that it will provide Israel with aerial support, refueling support to dramatically accelerate the offensive air war over Iran. Okay, that's one option. What do you guys think about that? Just like direct logistics support for Israeli offensive air operations.
Yes, I mean,
I'm almost surprised we're not already doing that. And if we are, we're probably doing it over the Med versus, like, say, over Iraq or even Iran.
Does anybody know what the fuel situation looks like for aviation fuel inside Israel?
I mean, they've got
stockpiles, I'm sure, but I'm wondering if this is a good strategic help that we are bringing over full tankers as well, not just the tankers themselves, but the fuel within it.
I don't know that this would be I can imagine it would be a lot cheaper just to kind of shift tankers from other places, even within the Mediterranean. So the second option potentially is joining the kinetic fight. Honestly, staging to make it look like we're ready to join the kinetic fight makes sense to me, especially if Trump wants to bring them to the table, to the negotiation table. I mean, I won't lie. There is a warmonger inside of me that I like to keep bottled up, that kind of, would like to see the United States Air Force smack the Iranians a little bit, but ultimately we don't need to get involved. We should not get involved. That's
I don't want any distraction from domestic policy.
I know we've got a Marxist revolution essentially occurring in the streets of the United States right now. Number 3 is preparing to deal with Iran attempting to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now that's interesting, right? Like it's a staging to prepare for some sort of escalatory action by Iran. And if they are in fact kind of on the verge of some sort of capitulation, ready to come to the table, then that wouldn't seem likely. And number 4, providing a robust air bridge from the U.S. to the Middle East. And so, I mean, maybe This may be the most likely option, as it would be needed if major assets were going to start flowing into the region, or at least the option to support such actions are being put into place now. This would include many types of aircraft and especially fighters. It could also be put in place to support global air power bomber missions from the United States to Iran and back. The American B-2s are only known conventional asset that have the potential capability of badly disabling and destroying Iran's deepest underground components. I don't know. I think the B-1s could do it too, but that's just me. We have constantly, pre-positioning a tanker bridge spanning the Atlantic might be needed to support heavily laden B-2 operations. The same bridge could also be helped to bring American assets to get out of the region if the U.S. Evacuates its sprawling bases there out of fears of massive Iranian bombardment. That's actually pretty interesting too. Joe, I'll be honest with you. I'd love to see them use this opportunity. We're going to shut down our Iraqi bases, I think this would be a perfect excuse to, it's time to us to get out of this neighborhood.
And Syrian. Let's not forget Syria.
Yeah, I mean, it's more troops in Syria, than bases. But yeah, you're right about that. You're 100% right. Let's see. It's worth noting that other assets appear to be headed in Iran's direction, including a U.S. carrier strike group heading into the Indian Ocean from the South China Sea. They'll just have to wait and see what this is all about. I think it's pretty interesting, but ultimately we're in a wait and see position. So one of the options there, number 3, was to respond to a shutdown of the Straits of Hormuz, which is something that Iranians have threatened. My question to the question posed in this next article is essentially that: could Iran carry out its threat to shut down the Strait of Hormuz? Now, Joe, we've seen some GPS jamming in this region recently. That's something that is not super uncommon, right?
Yeah, GPS jamming in that area is not that uncommon. Number one, that's probably the reason why you saw those Navy ribs get captured. GPS spoofing. They thought they were in one place when they were in another. And 2, they would love to cause a collision so they could say it wasn't them that did it, right? So a lot of opportunities there for it. Everyone is talking in the chat about the strike on Iranian state TV. Apparently it just happened while we were live. There's a bunch of links over there in the Rumble chat. She was in the middle of giving a rant on air when the building blew up around her.
Apparently,
you want to pull that up?
Yeah, I've got it, and somebody's got what I think this sounds like an accurate translation. It sounds like apparently what she's saying when this happens is we're now going live to the scene of the most recent Israeli missile strikes, and then it happens.
Let's listen to this shrill, it's pretty terrible, but it's kind of funny because it's a woman.
صدایی که شنیدید فضای غبارآلود استادیوم.
Bye.
That's a peace out. And then, so there are some other videos, I guess, aftermath of the strike. Let's see. Yeah, this is right outside that place. It's a short video.
State Department just issued a travel advisory too
For Iran,
Israel, West Bank, Gaza due to the ongoing conflict.
Yeah, well, it's hello, Captain Obvious.
I'm glad that my mom was able to visit Israel like she always wanted to before all this stuff got crazy.
All right, back to the Iran closing down the Straits of Hormuz, because Joe, this is one of those kind of things that could get the Gulf states more emotionally involved in this whole thing. The threat that Iran attempted to block the highly strategic Straits of Hormuz has reemerged amidst the conflict that has erupted between them and Israel. Over the years, the Iranians have amassed an arsenal of cruise and ballistic missiles and kamikaze drones, as well as a slew of maritime capabilities like naval mines, well suited to the task of shutting down the narrow waterway that links the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. At the same time, there are questions about to the extent of which Israeli strikes may have hampered Iran's ability to follow through on such a threat, even or whether the regime in Tehran would take it to that drastic step. Let's see. A current member of Iran's parliament and head of the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and National Security has said that the closing the Strait of Hormuz is now under serious consideration. According to multiple sources today, the original source of the remarks are Khosari, the guy who holds the rank of Brigadier General Iran's IRGC. It appears to be a story from the state-run Islamic Republic of Iran news network. Just saw that get blown up, so who knows? The Strait of Hormuz remains open and commercial traffic continues to flow uninterrupted, according to a Joint Maritime Information Center advisory. The current JMIC has no indications of increased threat to maritime. Hey, Joe, in times like this, do ships start avoiding that area just to kind of like this is an active war zone, so we need to steer clear? Or is it one of those kind of things where they just kind of watch it? They keep the regular operations going, but they watch it a lot closer.
If there's another way out of the Persian Gulf, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, do they hold ships back or don't bring them in, maybe divert to other ports?
This would be a great time for someone to say open a new pipeline to the south into the Red Sea.
Into the Red Sea, yeah.
That's really the only other way you can go, or some sort of a overland pipeline to the Indian Ocean side. That's really it. So you can't really avoid the Strait of Hormuz, just like you can't avoid the Strait of
Malacca.
No, the one there by
Djibouti.
Maghreb. You can't avoid that. The only way you can avoid it is by going all the way around Africa. So it's a little bit tough. So
and you got a lot of countries like even though
you're ruining my good joke. You have to go through the tight squeeze to get to Djibouti, just like you have to get out of the Gulf.
Oh, sorry, Joe. I didn't see that coming. But I should have. We were in the vicinity. I should always look.
We're in the general vicinity of Djibouti.
Despite the fact that Saudi Arabia probably can avoid it, I mean, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, all these, Iraq, all of these countries have to go through the Strait of Hormuz to export their oil. So it'll be interesting to see if Iran really wants to piss them off. What's that?
Oh, just chat. Just chat reacting to Joe.
Yeah. That's a long way for a Djibouti. That's a crappy joke. Oh man.
All the way around to Africa, back to
sometimes be prepared. It takes a long way to get to Djibouti.
That's right. They're definitely capable. I mean, they've got the mines, they've got the maritime assets. The question is whether the geopolitical situation, ultimately they're going to piss off the Gulf states, and they're going to make oil producers in Texas very happy.
Yes. Prices went up. I noticed it on my travels yesterday that getting home was way more expensive than getting out. Crazy.
I saw that the prices on West Texas Intermediate was up. I didn't really look.
Too.
Yeah, I didn't really look at the at where it was up to, but that's the kind of like, if we ever get one of our if Jim shows up to talk about that, I'll definitely make sure to ask him about it.
I'll just I won't even comment, but I look forward to seeing both of them again they have my concerns up at the moment. We'll just say so.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Evergreen. Yeah, we already talked about that. So Israel's strike on South Pars is Europe facing a new energy crisis. So Israel's recent military strike on Iran's nuclear capabilities and the main artery for its energy sector reshuffled the regional deck for Europe. The attack could signal onset of an energy policy disaster. It is too early to fully assess Israel's strategic attack on Iran's nuclear infrastructure and energy production. Yet one thing is clear: alongside the systematic elimination of military nuclear targets, the precision strike on South Pars gas field marks a dramatic escalation of military events. Located on the Persian Gulf, the South Pars is currently the world's largest operational gas field and a central pillar of the Iranian regime's economic stability. By targeting the facility, Israel has sent a clear signal that it aims to bring about regime change in Tehran and is willing to risk retaliatory attacks on its own energy infrastructure to achieve that end. Hitting Iran's economic lifeline, the June 14th attack on the gas fields resulted in an immediate shutdown of one of its 4 production units. Daily output dropped by 12 million cubic meters, a roughly 4.4% decrease in Iran's daily gas production, which totals approximately 275 billion cubic meters annually, with a domestic gas price of around 7 cents per cubic meter. The Iranian gas regime is now Iranian regime is now losing an estimated $840,000 per day. This is a serious blow to the country's energy sector, as South Pars is Iran's most important energy source. Iran uses the bulk of its natural gas for domestic consumption. This kind of goes to what you were talking about, Watcher, with the internal energy supply being reduced. Only 10% of its gas output is designated for export, according to National Iranian Gas Company, with Iraq and Turkey as its main customers under long-term contracts. Export to Europe remains a strategic objective, Tehran, but it's currently negligible significance due to its lack of infrastructure and hostile political conditions. So, I mean, this is absolutely one of the ways Israel could put Iran over the barrel, especially on that domestic front. By kind of tightening the screws on both Iran's ability to make money and also its domestic energy supply. I mean, that absolutely ratchets us up. I mean, Joe, you cut off that domestic gas supply. What does that do to the likelihood of instability or, a collapse? I mean, you could have a societal collapse within Iran because of all this.
You could, but you're applying again, though, Western society and Western societal thought processes to an Eastern society. They will blame the West for destroying their way of life and their ability to make money faster than they will blame the Ayatollah for doing so, right? So you might not get the societal collapse or the government overthrow that you might see.
Yeah, in the West. I mean, but ultimately, too, I think having those local militia units with guns they're ready to point them at their own people as quickly as they point them at anybody else. I think that changes the equation too. I mean, it's that you're absolutely right about that Western versus Eastern mindset, right? And while there may be plenty of people in these big cities, it's kind of like Russia, like in Moscow and St. Petersburg, you've got all kinds of pro-Western type of people. But you get outside the big cities, and the support for the regimes and the kind of goes up massively because it's a very different kind of lifestyle.
Now, the strike on the TV was exactly designed to take away the ability for the regime to craft their message that they're being attacked unjustifiably by Israel, right, and America. So in that regard, the strike on state TV may actually help lead to regime change.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It shows that instability, right? Like they can project calm as long as the TV announcer's there to kind of, but as soon as that person has to run for their lives and all of a sudden the ceiling starts falling in on her, it projects a very different kind of message when it comes to the stability of the regime. All right, let's move over to, we're 2 hours, 20 minutes, so I want to go ahead and get this wrapped up. Let's move over to our No Kings protest stuff. I don't have a whole lot of actual stories for this, but I just thought I would kind of tee these up. Watcher, I know you've got a lot of stuff that you saw over the weekend and whatnot. I thought this was kind of a great commentary. I mean, this is a consistent thing you see from the left on why they want their immigrants to hang around. LA Mayor Bass says if ICE raids persist, there won't be nobody to nanny our kids or mow the lawns.
Proving who the real racists are, right?
What's that?
Proving who the real racists are.
Exactly right. And so just so 9 years ago, Kelly Osbourne failed to make a point against Donald Trump in The View. So this is back in, this would have been 2016 when he was running for president. And he's talking about, the building the wall and all that kind of stuff. And so play this clip of Kelly Osbourne just to kind of show the consistency that these leftists have had over the years.
Every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, you know what I mean? Like when I'm saying that there's more jobs.
Like, no, don't say that. Don't take the mask off.
No, I didn't mean it like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that. Okay, I'm not part of this argument.
I think what you're saying is that Trump himself
he needs to look out
probably relies on a lot of these people that he's insulting. I think
these people. He probably has a lot of these people. That's suspiciously close to those people or you people.
You people.
I just said that Robert E. Lee, when he said those people, he was talking about the Yankees.
Exactly right. Let's see. That was only the beginning. Since then, Democrat after Democrat has warned that enforcing immigration law means, but not only Republicans do it, that is the disappearance of slave labor. I swear, if in 50 years the Democrats demand reparations for illegals who are underpaid and treated like property, the very policies they now support, I'm going to lose it. If we're all acutely aware, Los Angeles is indistinguishable from a third world riot scene. If you didn't know it better, you'd think that we were in Mogadishu in July of 1989 or Tripoli in 2011. But nope, it's the Golden State city after decades of Democratic control. And offering her 2 cents about the events, Mayor Karen Bass says that if the ICE raids persist, there will be nobody left to nanny LA's children or mow the lawns. These are their full comments. My biggest fear is the impact on Angelinos will begin to feel when the labor of immigrants is absent. Bass said, we'll feel it in the construction industry. We'll feel it in hospitality. We'll feel it in the grocery stores. People will begin to notice. You think mothers who have nannies and housekeepers, they'll feel it when nobody's left to do childcare and there's nobody left to take their kids. You'll feel it when the gardener goes away. You don't know where he or she is. So Angelinos will feel the absence. They don't care about these people. They only care about what they do for them. That's it. And that's the only reason they want them there. That's not because they want that these are valuable members of our community. No, it's their labor is valuable to this community. You said it before, Joe. I mean, this just shows you what they really care about and who the real racists are.
Yeah, and Watcher has a link to a story here that disproves some of their thoughts. So there was a plant that got raided who said, well, we had to hire illegals because Americans won't do the job. Hey, what happened there this morning, Watcher?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that guy. But so this morning, the Every single seat in the waiting room of Glen Valley Foods is occupied by an American waiting to fill out a job application.
Huh.
I thought you couldn't find Americans to do the job.
Gee, it's almost as if he was using illegal immigrant labor because he knew that he had a leg up on those people and they couldn't bargain or negotiate with him or tell him no or literally do anything like report sexual abuse or anything. It's almost like that guy should be fucking investigated for human trafficking and identity theft.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that is absolutely nuts. I just want to catch up on two super chats real quick. Darth Kitty for $2, shekels for Scott's ADHD meds. Thank you very much. And Peter Shay's helicopter tours for $1. Democrats are pissed that Republicans are taking their slaves away again. I mean, there is some symmetry to the logic, right? It's literally the argument they made back in who's going to pick the cotton? You know, that's what they were saying back in the 1860s.
4 knots to nowhere. That is exactly correct. This is the same plant, although you'll hear this often. Listen, I published a little decoder for you guys. You'll hear these guys that are employing hundreds and hundreds of illegals, and every time they're interviewed, they give the same responses. And a little handy decoder for you when they say, we ran them all through E-Verify and everybody passed. What that means is I'm in partnership with a criminal gang who's providing stolen identities to all of my illegal slaves.
Yep. I mean, they're literally working with the traffickers. Let's see. In California, around 40% of the construction force is composed of immigrants, with about half of their potential lacking documentation. An estimated 5% of agricultural workers are undocumented. Evidently, have you guys seen there are now machines for picking blueberries and strawberries? Shocking that, but they're,
but yeah.
What's that?
That's not new, but yeah.
I know, but the point is they've been around for a little while, not a long time, but a little while. And they're kind of expensive. And shocking that these farmers are just willing to just pay people like peanuts in order to avoid buying these machines. Let's see. However, who wouldn't you miss if they didn't show up for work? Government parasites like Bass. That's exactly right. We would never miss her if she never showed up to work. Can we lose ICE on California's elected? Can we use ICE on California's elected officials so that they too stop showing their faces in public? That's pretty funny. That was a column by Olivia Murray via The American Thinker. All right. Watcher, what happened over the weekend that we need to? I mean, there was some movement and action over the weekend. What do we need to cover?
I mean, honestly, the big thing is this: they worked themselves up for it. They got they are now trying to claim they had 5 million people. Being incredibly generous gets us to a total estimate of like roughly 500,000. One of the ways they're trying to game the event numbers is something that they set up beforehand. Basically, they looked at a map of different regions and said, okay, where are the small towns? Where are the medium-sized towns? Where are the big towns? So here's what we're going to do. All the small towns, you guys are going to have your events in the morning, and then you'll all bus yourselves to the medium-sized towns. And in all the medium-sized towns, you'll do it in the middle of the afternoon, and then you'll bus yourselves to the large towns. And then they counted each of those as separate attendances. No, those aren't separate attendances, which means you can just go to the big cities and you can just grab what the numbers were at each of the major metropolitan areas. And working from that and not double counting events, because some of them did have multiple events per day, and then they tried to double count those as well. If you just count what the highest crowd number at any given time was, you had about 500,000 people in America that gave a shit. And honestly, this did break the back of the rest of that protest movement, because that protest movement had been going every night since last two Fridays ago. They'd been going out and getting out violent every single night, including both Sundays previous to this. until this Sunday. After that event, which turned out to be absolutely nothing, and then multiple people on their side got shot and demoralized, and now, well, nobody comes out Sunday, and I'm betting you good money, well, except for Portland and Seattle, but again, it's Portland and Seattle.
Do you want to show the scenes from Portland? I just put a link to one of the videos from Andy No.
Sure.
There's several other on his timeline.
Portland got crazy. Joe was the police were out at this kind of riot line area until I think Friday night. When Joe
this is on Saturday right here, I think.
Yeah.
This is on the 14th.
I don't know that maybe it was. Maybe they came out and retook the front courtyard and then re-abandoned it again. No, it's not. So it's not. You can tell because the glass doors there are not broken out yet. Those glass doors were broken out on the night of Friday, which is why the police ultimately decided to abandon the place. They have now replaced those. Well, first they replaced them with just sheet plywood. But this morning, Sunday morning, when you looked at them, they had some kind of metal temporary door replacement over the top of them. So this was either early Friday or later Friday.
And then Cam Higbee got pretty beat up trying to cover the protest.
So I may get with Washer and see about Saturday night, us doing a recap of my observations from last week.
From Denver.
Because I want to point out a lot of learnings that I had. What I saw when going to some of the smaller ones earlier in the day were geriatrics. I sent Washer a photo and I said, looks like these revolutionaries fought in the actual revolution. And Washer said, no, it looks like they fought in the War of the Roses. But but the early ones, they were large, but they were all geriatrics. And as the day progressed, you saw a younger and more violent crowd showing up. And in Denver, there were easily 2,000 to 3,000 people in one square. And what's funny is while the main protest remained where it was, Black Bloc slipped out and around and went to block the freeway, and that's when the riot began. So there were some pretty good tactics, and it still remains that the blue cities are hives of this activity, and that's where they can mobilize quickly and where they probably get the best response. I think in Denver, they didn't count on the Denver Police Department actually fighting back like they did. And Denver didn't allow them to block the freeway. So we can go over some of those talks and learnings. But the biggest thing I want to point out is these things that are meant to be spontaneous. I took a fantastic photo of a bunch of the protest materials laying on the ground that were brought out by PSL in trucks and set on the ground with little Ziploc baggies full of instructions on how to set up the spontaneous looking signage, right? So they're not actually spontaneous. They came in a giant kit from somewhere. Yeah. And PSL is way more organized than folks mostly thought. There's two different brands of the PSL. One is the street militias that you see that are always armed and always out and carrying the flags. The other is the Bernie Sanders party. They're wearing PSL shirts with Bernie Sanders' face on them. And they're an actual, like any other business, so like an event planning company. And they run around and they set up booths and they're using radios and all that stuff. And when I pointed out the thing about the Baofeng digital radios they have, that suggests a much higher level of competency and organization because somebody is programming the same encryption key across all of their radios. Somebody is programming and setting up the same DMR hotspot for all of their radios, and they're running it in the field that day digitally so that you can no longer run just a general intercept. You've got to know their talk group ID and what sort of encryption they're using and how. So there's a lot more organization there than what the right wants to give them credit for. And that's how revolutions happen, right? So I want to talk about that maybe later in the week. We do just a show on that, Washer.
Hey, let's just real quick. There was a murder, I guess, at the Salt Lake City. Is that right?
Well, it's unclear exactly what happened, but it wasn't the guy in custody is a PSL guy who had an AR-15, and he was allegedly shot by some security from PSL. So I'm not really sure what the deal was. I honestly think that he was supposed to shoot someone and get away, but the response was too quick.
Yeah. So, man accused of murder at Salt Lake City, No Kings protest is a radical leftist. The actual shooter.
I loved him in the Geico commercials.
I know. He looks like the king, man. Volunteer peacekeeper for the protester in place of police may have fatally misjudged the situation before firing off rounds into the crowd, killing a bystander. Latino radical leftist alleged Antifa supporter has been charged with murder under after allegedly causing the conditions that resulted in the Samoan man being killed at the Salt Lake City No Kings protest on June 14th. Arturo Gamboa, a 24-year-old member of the leftist Utah punk band Raid, was apprehended at the scene wearing all black, allegedly having a semi-automatic rifle. A No Kings liberal peacekeeper volunteer with bad aim tried to take out Gamboa with 3 shots, but instead fatally wounded a bystander. The peacekeeper may have fatally misjudged the situation, as it's unclear if Gamboa was actively posing a threat. The No Kings protest organizers were part of the nearly 200 Democratic-aligned unions, PACs, and nonprofit activist groups. Let's see. Arthur Alu, a 39-year-old fashion designer, died from his injuries at the hospital. Suspect Gamboa only suffered a grazing wound. Gamboa previously told music publication Slug Magazine that he detested the American global influence fighting racism, and yet he kills a Samoan man. Go figure. Yeah, it sounds like this is a pretty confused situation. And it was literally green on green activity. It sounds like, whereas both these people were there as active protesters. This is the other problem with coming to a protest with weapons, right? People see the weapon, and it could be a cop. He sees the weapon, and you're not pointing it at anybody or anything like that. You don't have your hands on it; it's just hanging there. And he sees weapon, goes threat level, level 3, and just goes, and starts shooting. So it's kind of like what happened with Ashley Babbitt. I think that cop that shot her just panicked, and she didn't even have a weapon.
I don't think he panicked. I think that was part of the script.
I don't think that's
part of the plan for the day. That guy wanted to shoot somebody, so he shot somebody. And here, I don't know what happened, but Gamboa was absolutely a committed leftist, and you would have to ask yourself what his intent was with the rifle. I don't know.
Yeah,
he could have been there as security too. I don't know. We see PSL guys there with rifles all the time at various protests. But what was funny was the immediate leftist response was that a right-wing guy was shot while trying to shoot up a crowd, and the guy is not right-wing at all. That's the story they're covering now.
Right.
By saying, oh, no, looks like this is an accidental shooting or dangerous shooting. There's a lot more going on this weekend than what was portrayed in the media.
Let's see. All right, gentlemen. Anything else that we need to talk about today? I think that's about it for me. Nothing heard. Joe, you want to kind of give us your thoughts going into the week? I mean, are we going to have another round of ICE protests, or is it going to calm down a little bit before it heats back up again? What do you think?
No, we're gonna see another week of ICE protests because another thing is happening today. ICE has stepped up operations across the country in blue cities. So a little cubby, Party for Socialism and Liberation is what it stands for. Which is a contradiction, right? You can't be liberated and live in a socialist society. It's just not possible.
Right. Pete, you there?
No, he said he left.
Okay. He should just leave. If he
no, he said be right back. I mean, that means he's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Watcher, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. I think that it's going to come back with a lower and different energy. But I think it's going to come back. I think that, remember that this wasn't kicked off because of normal regular ice raids. This was kicked off because they were coming after the California government's slush fund that they've been kicking around through various different criminal legal organizations. We've yet to see that get paid to. So
yeah,
eyes out.
Yeah. All right. One more. Pete, you there? No, Pete. All right. I just assumed that we missed him before we had to go. Guys, that's all I've got for today. Thank you very much for being here. A lot of interesting stuff going on in the world. We'll keep an eye out for you. If you would please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. Hit the bell for notifications as you do. Also, like the video. It's free to do. It doesn't hurt anything, and it definitely helps us get the word out. Tell people you're getting some good info here on the Council on Future Conflicts. I know for a fact that word of mouth has been helpful lately. Got a couple DMs over the last couple days that gave us some thanks for the shows we did at the end of the last week. So I know you guys are talking about it, so I appreciate that. Joe, Pete, Watcher, thank you guys for helping. Comment, chat, you guys are doing great. And we will see you again on Wednesday. As always, stay